in the world. And we'll start, Pete, we'll just go across this way.
Yeah, can you hear me? Nope. Better?
I got you.
You got me?
All right, go.
Okay. First off, let's give it up for UC for having this forum. We want more of this, so if you like what you're experiencing, tweet it, send a note to Neville Pino, but we need more of this in Cincinnati. It's really important because what we're talking about is the tip of the iceberg on what I think is one of the most important tech movements since World Wide Web, and it's not an exaggeration. Listen, this is a complicated topic. I think there's tremendous opportunity to kind of unlock value. We can all become better business leaders. I'm particularly excited about helping startups get to the starting line faster, better, cheaper. I'm excited about diverse founders having a better shot at, value creation, getting capital, and I think we just need to think creatively about how these incredible tools open up new opportunities. At the same time, we've got really, really difficult issues. We've got tensions. We've got ethical questions. We've got potential tragedy in the commons. We screwed up the ad space when the web came around. How do we make sure that we look through the rearview mirror and say, we're not going to do it again? But the good news is that all problems create entrepreneurial opportunities. So everybody out here taking notes, I hope you go back and write up a business concept on ChatGPT or Bing, and come to Cintrifuse, and we'll help you take it to the next level.
Okay, thanks, Pete. Mel?
Hello.
I know you might as well just pass that microphone around. Look at that.
Hello. There we go. I think the thing that excites me most about OpenAI and AI in general is the capabilities it brings to light that people may have not had time or opportunity or even the inclination of thinking they could accomplish those things with it. I think that acceleration, that ability to just create new and exciting realms, applications, more effective ways to accomplish just business tasks that free you up to actually have time to create that next big thing. For me, that's the very exciting part, as well as, advances that can be made in medical research and education. There's a lot of different areas that can really benefit from this. In terms of what concerns me, I think I echo your thoughts with that. I think the fear that people have around this, I worry that will get out of control and can hinder a lot of the things that would be really beneficial to people. But I also, we always have to make sure that we have the proper guardrails, we have the proper AI reviews, and that we have as much structure around it as we can to keep everything safe and accurate. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that, Mel.
How many people in this room are software engineers? Okay, so not a large portion. Okay, so the thing that I'm most excited about and most worried about is it can be used to make us stronger, to make humanity stronger, but will we use it to make us stronger? Are you familiar, has anybody heard of Khan Academy? Conmigo? Yeah. So Conmigo is this new thing they came out with, it's a chat bot, and you'll ask it like, hey, what's the answer to this chemistry problem? And instead of giving you the answer, it'll say, well, what do you know about that so far? And it's strengthening your mind, right? Which is very different than, here's the answer to your homework, you don't have to learn anymore, right? And I think that you can extrapolate that and grow that to so many aspects of our businesses that we run, and so many aspects of just you can see many other forms of technology that had so much promise to, I won't name names, but there can be software platforms that help you connect your small business to your local community. Can also be used to spread false information and rig elections and empower genocides, right? So how are we using this technology? It can be used for great good. It can also be used for making us weaker individually, but also as a collective society.
What interests me most is a few years ago when we heard of this cloud platforms coming out, right? We said how easy it has become for businesses and everyone, startups especially, to get started and avail the offerings cloud has. So this is one step further. I mean, think of the advantages you can provide to third world countries with this technology, right? So advantages are limitless. What scares me is for little kids and for younger kids, for school-going, college-going individuals, are we going to affect their creativity in some way? Of course, there's in addition to that, we can have those AI principles I talked about, those guardrails in place. But while I gave the example that I want to write a blog, I'll ask ChatGPT to give me an outline of that blog, right? It's a great tool to get me started. But then the other day I was talking to someone and they told me about a professor who failed his entire class because he found out that everyone has done their homework with ChatGPT. So yes, things like that. We don't want to, stop that creativity process or hinder that creativity process. But of course, there's a way to come past that as well.
Sure, thanks for sharing that. So let's, we've got a series of questions. I'm gonna go back to you, Kirsten. No surprise, one of the questions that seems to be on everybody's mind is to what extent are large language models going to displace work? And then for business owners and parents and individual contributors alike, the question seems to be, what should I be learning or what should I be studying to prepare for a future with large language models? I'm going to ask you first because you're actually thriving in this world. Right? You've actually built a business, you're employing people who have to sit around this space. How would you advise everyone in the room to think about how large language models, the opportunities they're going to create versus the ones maybe that they might displace from where you're sitting?
Does everyone know what Cloverleaf is? Okay, I'm just gonna give like a real quick example. So raise your hand. This is not true of you guys in this room. I know you're super healthy, but like, have you ever heard somebody complain about a colleague, someone that they work with? Have you ever heard somebody say, I saw this problem months ago. I tried to tell my boss, but nobody listens to me around here. These problems that we all experience at work really come back to emotional intelligence, and that's why research shows time and time again, people who have higher emotional intelligence make more money for themselves, make more money for their organizations, increase innovation, solve problems more creatively, because they can organize the people around them really effectively to take what's good inside of everyone and harness it for the good of the whole team, right? So what we do at Cloverleaf is we take these assessments that people have taken in the past. Everyone's taken a Myers-Briggs Strengths Test Finder. Anyone here taken one of those? Right. And do you remember if you're an ISTJ, 7, DI, SC, whatever all those mean? So what we do is we take all of the great research behind that about how people's brains work and we push coaching to people. It's just like 2-sentence tips. It would say like, hey Kirsten, you're about to meet with Pete, persuade him like this, not like that. And we're just trying to train people on like, how do you see cognitive diversity and make really work best with the people around you. So I give all that example to say, content is king for us, and the accuracy of our content is critical because this can change lives for better or for worse if our content is harsh or encouraging or accurate or inaccurate, right? So back in 2018, I was talking to one of the people I work with, and I was like, hey, I wish that we have to create all these coaching tips. Could we just is there any tool out there where I could just give it a couple of data points and it would spit out sentences for me? And they were like, no way, millions of dollars, tons of engineers, a couple of years. And I was like, well, I don't have any of that. So we just hired writers. And then today, we still have writers. We work with writers still, but they don't write, they QA. Because that accuracy is critical, and that tone is critical. And even though we've done some great prompt engineering on what's our brand, right? And thankfully, OpenAI lets us keep all of that secret. We still need those people, and we still need their skill set. We just apply it in a different way. So all of that long-winded answer to say, I think that a lot of these same skills are going to be needed, but you have to learn how to apply them effectively. I don't actually think that the technology is to a place where you can fire all your engineers and just get it done yourself. And I don't think that it should get to that place. I think it actually just enhances what your engineers are capable of doing, so you can do more for less money. But that doesn't take jobs away, that increases the impact that you can have. And also, of course, because I care so much about psychological safety, cognitive diversity, all of that, I think it just makes that emotional intelligence so much more important as those hard skills get amplified and aren't as much the key differentiator. It's how you can work together with the humans around you that is really going to make you the most effective.
Okay, so there's a lot in there. One of the takeaways I heard is human skills, empathy skills, collaborative skills are actually going to become more and more important as other tasks are automated away. Mel, same question for you. I mean, you're a PhD, right? So you dedicated years of your life to studying a field, and now there are people who are saying, well, what do we need PhDs for anymore? We can just ChatGPT it away. So what advice do you have when you look 3 years out? What advice do you have for all of us here in terms of the skills we ought to be building as they compare from today and the kind of jobs we should be thinking about?
First off, you always need somebody to do a PhD because we need chairs to tell us what's wrong with our dissertations. We always need that. I'm joking, I love Mike, he was a great teacher. I agree with almost everything that you said. I think it's incredibly important to recognize that we're not trying to replace things. We're trying to make people more effective, to accelerate what they can do, to all the little menial tasks, not that they're menial, but all the small tasks that wind up taking a ton of your time. If you could, what could you accomplish if you didn't have to do that? What could you accomplish if you didn't have to write 12,000 to-dos with reminders every time there was a point in a meeting? Or if you needed to summarize a meeting or create sample code. There's just so many different things that you could do to accelerate. And I think that's the part to harness, but also to your point, there's so much of that human interaction, that creativity, that math is never going to accomplish. So I think cultivating those skills in conjunction with AI is the best part of all this world.
So if I'm hearing you right, Melissa, you're saying that AI can as we said before,
Right.
give you superpowers, but you have to have the powers to begin with.
Right.
Basis goes to the
Yes.
bottom. Madiha, over to you. I mean, among the many impressive things about you is you're actually doing it. So you're out there, you're working with retailers, you're helping them use artificial intelligence. And I'm sure as you're doing this, you must occasionally get the questions about, hey, this is great for my business, but I'm also worried about our people. If you stepped out of the large corporate world and imagine small business owners, say here in the Cincinnati area, who are like, well, I don't have the budget of a Procter & Gamble or Fifth Third Bank, how would you recommend they dip their toes and get started down the journey of using large language models to improve their business?
Well, you still have the option of trying out the open source OpenAI, right? Get started with that. I guess, I don't know. You always have the option of, see, OpenAI is actually enabling you. I just gave the example of Codex as well, right? You have that ability to go ahead and innovate newer processes. That's where the creativity comes into place as well, right? You don't have to be a large company to invest in platforms like Azure. You have these open source tools available to get started. And once you reach a point where you're ready to commit to a platform like Azure or of the sort, but to get started, you have a lot of open source tools available that you can start trying. And with these added assistance that you have, I think you have a very good starting point, in my opinion.
So what I'm hearing from you here is get out there and start tinkering, experimenting with
Yes.
open source
Yes.
tools. That's a nice segue over to you, Pete. I remember, I don't know if folks remember here, but in July of 2020, you actually testified before Congress, I remember. And one of the things on behalf of small business owners in the area, and one of the things I remember you saying is, stop obsessing with VUCA right? Consultants and our acronyms all tell what VUCA stands for, right? And start enabling businesses to tinker and experiment. And that was July of 2019, I think, or was that 2015? It was a while ago. Fast forward to today, where do you see the biggest opportunities for businesses in the Cincinnati area to start tinkering with large language models like this?
Yeah, so let me start by giving a harder answer to the discussion we had about jobs, because I think for us to unlock value, we're going to be brutally honest about what is going on. And this is a very real disruption. And so I often joke around with some sincerity that I've got 100 interns in my pocket, but that has some consequences, and there will be certain jobs that are downsized, whatever word you want to use, and we just need to get in front of it and think about like what are the new opportunities that are being created. So you said, what are the new jobs? I mean, data scientists, let's get going on that. That's got a big need. Talk to our friends at Kroger, they'll say we don't have enough. What are we doing to feed that pipeline? And they said that before the AI revolution. Cybersecurity's had, specialists, digital health consultants, sustainable energy consultants, VR, AR designers are going to be hot in demand in this environment. Creative curators. Creatives are not going to go away, trust me. But there's going to be a new science of curation that sits on top of all of these tools. Those skills will be important, but we're going to have to re-envision what it means. DAP's going to have to take a step back and ask themselves, what is the new currency for job success? So we got to get in front of it. In terms of like small business, I think there's incredible opportunity. Again, I'll go back to my earlier point. I mean, what takes startups and entrepreneurs out of line is they run out of cash, they're frustrated, they're burnt out, there's a lot of relief in open AI, and we need to understand how to deliver it. I'm struggling with this with my team. They're teeing up solutions to help startups, and I'm starting to ask myself, is it already outdated? Maybe what we really need to do is figure out how to give them 50 employees without spending $1 to get that great idea so it's polished and ready to go to the VCs, so that the VCs have no excuse to say, sorry, we're not giving you money because you weren't ready, because it takes effort to get ready. So I think we need to think creatively about how we prime entrepreneurs, business, especially underrepresented entrepreneurs, because I think that's an area where Cincinnati can shine if we really have the will and take that bold challenge as an opportunity to innovate. But I think there's a big opportunity for us to completely change the game here.
So thanks for that. A lot in there again, and you double-clicked on this idea of using AI to level the playing field. And actually, I remember last night you were talking, Pete was talking a lot about how AI could specifically level the playing field when it comes to VC and entrepreneurism. So I'm going to jump, having heard that, I'm going to jump back to Mel. When you hear this as a practitioner and a scientist, and you think about the intersection between the mathematics of generative AI and what it can do, and this broader goal that we all have of diversity and inclusion, what are some of the low-hanging fruit, the opportunities that you see for getting diversity right that are unique to AI, that could not be done, say, without artificial intelligence? And then same question to you, Madiha.
That's a very good question that I think probably involves a lot of discussion. But I think the most important part about D&I and any type of bias is trying to make sure that that is not something that exists within the large language models, and making sure, even if when you are fine-tuning it with your data, not just the general data, that there are guardrails, but that there needs to be processes that detect that and continually evaluate, continually update it. And an example of where things have not happened with that is that there have been chatbots that were fine within certain environments, but when they were released to freedom, so to speak, certain social media platforms turned them very angry very quickly. And there was not those guardrails or that awareness of bias for just, having manners and being empathetic and all the things that you would want. You don't want your chatbot to curse at you or any AI. Like those are, we all laugh at that, but that is the reality of not having things like that. Is that very derogatory and sensitive language can be built in unintentionally sometimes, but it needs to be a constant process. Because especially for businesses as well, the last thing you want is something that is a face of your business engaging in some type of bad activity. That is it's just wrong, but also a nightmare for those. So I think making sure that there's the most rigorous training and evaluation and constant monitoring of that is the most important thing.
And I noticed you had that emphasis on the data, right? The input, that's where the diligence begins. Madiha, how about you? And actually, I'm gonna add a twist to the question for you. As you know, here in Cincinnati, one of the things businesses in the region here are uniquely care about is sustainability as well. So there's a lot of green initiatives here. So the same question, only in this case, if I could surprise you at the last minute, how can we all be thinking about the power of AI in terms of meeting sustainability objectives in ways that perhaps we couldn't without the benefit of these systems?
I think piggybacking on what Mel said, having those guardrails in place, firstly, it's really gonna help. In fact, I think the other day I was trying something, I was trying to see how these content filters and everything works, and I think there was a glitch, and I got a very, very interesting response from one of these models. So we want to make sure that, we have these guardrails in place and these, all these principles, ethical principles applied when we're planning anything, right? For the, what was the other part of it? Sorry.
That it was, what are the things we can be doing around sustainability and helping us meet our sustainability objectives as business people and members of the community that perhaps were not possible before AI came onto the scene?
I feel like Pete would have an answer.
Yeah.
I would say in terms of being able to discover new elements, especially around research and new innovative products and things of that nature, I think is incredibly important. Sorry.
So I think there hasn't been a lot of media attention on this, but I think one of the most powerful things going on with AI is it's creating a different order of accountability to brands, big and small. So when I was at Nestle for 8 years leading digital, I was in charge of social media, and we looked at data every single day, and there's absolutely no question that the signals that we got where consumers were holding us more accountable for our green practices, whether it was deforestation or supply chain issues, I was literally reporting that to the CEO constantly, and it impacted decisions because you feel this sense of accountability when there's radical transparency. Now multiply that by 5 in this world of generative AI. So for example, I've been geeking out like crazy on all the tools, Bing, Google Bard, on just trying to understand how smart they're getting about the carbon footprint for everyday brands. And historically, it's been really hard for consumers to understand what's the carbon footprint of Tide or Pampers or Huggies or a Unilever product. It's radically simple. You can get it in 2 seconds. This morning, and they're getting smart. We can have all these debates over it's wrong, but that only lasts for a day because tomorrow it's getting smarter. And so if you go into Google Bard, for example, and you say, how much energy am I going to save with the Tide cold water versus regular Tide, it'll precisely measure it. And then you can say, well, what's the lifetime value of that carbon footprint? And they'll give you a number. And you say, what about the whole United States or the city of Cincinnati? But these tools are radically simplifying clarity on brands. And it's not just consumers that are going to do that. Every retailer that's scrutinizing a brand before they try to get it on shelf is going to be using their AI tools to figure out, are they worthy on the green front? Are they worthy on the diversity front? Are they meeting other values-based tests? And that's where things are going to get really, really interesting. But that's also an opportunity for entrepreneurs. And I would like Cincinnati to be the first city in the nation that gets in front of these new shopper tools that really are building on these fantastic platforms. God bless you. I mean, you really are making it easier for consumers not to worry about tech or coding, but to just bring that brilliant idea to the table. And I think there's a lot we can do in this area.
Okay. Now, by the way, I want everyone to know, if you could see the complete bios for our guests, the fact that I was able to stump someone this smart with a question, that was hard for me.
Yeah, that just made me think of, you know, that new feature in diapers where you can, you know, it's time, you know, when it's time to change diapers, right? So features like that, I can totally agree with you that we can make our products smarter in a way as well. So yeah, completely agree with that.
And get more credit.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're doing things right, you'll get more credit too.
Agree.
Okay, terrific. Now, just a quick question for our guests. Were we opening up to the audience? Yes, we are. So, who has, oh, we have one hand. Well, that was fast. That was like precognition right there. So, we have one hand over there. It's like Minority Report. I knew you were going to ask that question before you walked in the room. Please, tell us, when you ask your question, tell us who you are and a little bit of your background, and then who you'd like to answer your question.
To answer your last question, I don't know who is going to answer this question.
Okay.
I'm Jess Link, I work for the university. I'm here very excited to learn about how to optimize AI for myself, first and foremost, but how to support innovating processes in the future. So, to continue to labor this question that we're stuck on right now, I'm glad that we're stuck on it. To give you just a little bit of context, I was lucky enough to be in a program where we used a very basic software, and I don't know if AI was the language at the time, 2018, where a group of Masters in Public Administration individuals were talking about solving a border crisis problem. And it was putting in different numbers and different limits to say, okay, if we let X amount of people through the border, if we close off the border entirely, if we put X amount of dollars in, who dies, who survives, who thrives? And it would come out with this information. So this is how I see using AI as helping to solve or support transformation of social problems, right? It's a tool. But I think the question is challenging because asking that question now, focusing on the product is, okay, how is this product going to help solve these problems? It starts with the people. So it was a group of 15 people around one computer. And the tool was developed with people, right? The tool exists, but I'm really curious as to what tools this could help people develop to then convene and continue to address and solve these problems. Using my example as a starting point, is there anything else that you can think of that already exists or could exist that could continue to help move the needle for humanity?
So let me take a swing at answering the question. I'm going to direct this to you, Kirsten. What I think I'm hearing, and you're thinking, why me? Why not the data scientists? Here's the reason why. What I think I'm hearing from the guest is part of the things that makes AI work are the human beings who ask the questions of the model to begin with.
Yes.
Right? The AI is just math, but you need to have people who are thoughtful, not just about prompting a model, but actually constructing a question in such a way that the model will give you ethical, reliable, and impactful results. So I want to start with you because you've been through that journey. What advice would you give to our guests, and then we'll pivot to the data scientists and get their views on it.
Sure, I think it's a great question. I don't know the answer of what tools exist out there. I think it's super important. I would actually take it how I would look at it is be wary of who's building your tools. So, you know, this dress is fair trade. I don't want to support slave labor in the world, so I try to buy from companies that have been radically transparent about their supply chain. I think we should be the same way about our AI tools. Look for the companies that have been radically transparent about what are their inputs and what, you know, their ethical, I forget what it was called. 6 principles, thank you. Their ethical principles. And not just like, hey, we have a pretty marketing page that says we care about you, but like, what else have they done? Have they testified in front of Congress to say, please regulate my industry? Have they, you know, like, have they been present or not present in a lot of these conversations about how to do it ethically? Have they been really transparent about what are their data inputs? Because I actually am kind of scared by what you said, because I'm like, well, how'd you train that model? Because it might give you some really like racist information, you know? So like, I think that we just have to, while it might make some of the problem solving easier, it puts a very strong weight on us, a very heavy burden of actually doing our ethical due diligence of what information is going in and how are we using it for conclusions.
So what I heard there is before you even look for the tool, look closely at the provider of the tools. You get a sense of what they are and what they're not. Thanks for sharing that. From our friends from Microsoft, anything you would add to that?
Yeah, so it's correct. These tools will be as powerful as you want them to be. The sort of input you give them is going to determine the output as well. Going forward, we are also giving, you know, ability to individuals who are going to use these tools to have these guardrails by their choice as well. They can also, you know, on top of these tools, they would have abilities to add their own content filters. You know, on top of whatever principles we have defined, you would have an ability to modify them to cater to what you want, add additional monitoring, add additional filtered content, content filtering onto these tools to make them more adaptable to your use cases. So there's limitless stuff you can do with it. You can improve them. You can, you know, customize them to your need as well. And going forward, this is something you will see more and more in use by not only by big companies, but by, you know, smaller things, and even you know, for use cases like what you just mentioned. Do you have something to add?
First off, that is a very fascinating and also sad scenario. And I think the thing that I would want to emphasize with that is that this is an example of where information and math could be done for you to give you hard statistical numbers, but I do believe that that human element should play a large role in that, because, and I just don't believe that numbers should make a decision on whether somebody lives or dies. So I think that's incredibly important to take in consideration. It could tell you, you know, all the research, all the statistics, all the different variables, and help you analyze that and, you know, give you probabilities of certain outcomes and whether something could be, you know, correlative or causative and what those actual links are. But it can't replace that decision and an element of who dies. And I'm sorry that you ever had to even go through that, but that's my opinion on it.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, the reality is that all of these tools are empowering us to delegate to algorithms. Like it or not, let's just be brutally honest what's going on. And the question is, how do we manage it thoughtfully? And I think it's a good question for us to reflect upon in a university setting, because, you know, what is the output of tomorrow's university? We know that there's math and data science, but there's also going to be a whole new chapter in good judgment. What is balance in a world of AI? What is ethics? We had a conversation last night. I would like University of Cincinnati, Greater Cincinnati, to be a leader in AI and ethics. I think we should start asking ourselves right now, what slice of AI do we want to own? It's a big space. I frankly think the world does not trust, with all due respect, I think there's a lot of distrust on big tech. There's a lot of distrust on coastal elites. I think the Midwest has standing and street cred to step forward and say, okay, we're going to lead a conversation and a thoughtful discussion about what, you know, ethics, good judgment, but that's the input that's needed. You know, the algorithms are here. But how do we balance that with the right way forward? And I think that's a huge opportunity, and I think we got a whole conference on that.
Thanks. Was there did I see another hand?
Oh, yeah, I know